Contracts are absolutely vital. People say to me, you give these talks, but you don't mention how much the value of the job should be before we implement all of this stuff. Well, the answer to that is, how much money are you prepared to gamble with, really? I mean, obviously, there's quite a bit of detail here for you to go through and make sure the guy's got insurance, etc. And we would always suggest interviewing 3 builders, whether they've all got insurance or not. So there's a bit of work for you to do to make sure you've got the right builder, but it doesn't really matter how much money is involved. It's up to you. Most rip-offs in this country occur between 300 and 700 quid, because they're that's unbelievably the kind of money that people hand out without thinking, and the builder just disappears. And they can do 7 or 8 jobs like that in a day, which is why, the guy turns up with 4 people in the morning and he's never seen again. So they take the 200 to 700 quid and off they go. So you can put all of these measures in place regardless of the value of the contract. That really is up to you, entirely up to you. What a contract does, a contract between you and the builder, what that absolutely ensures is that the 4 words that you can see on the screen don't occur, because they're the most dangerous 3 words in any kind of building relationship. But I thought you meant, but I thought you were going to put the front door on the other end. But I thought the roof tiles were going to be orange. But I thought you meant you'd finish this March. But I thought, well, man, they're such dangerous words. But a contract ensures that you don't go through that situation. Now, we've spent 5 years. There are many, many building contracts out on the market. The most legally recognized are contracts called the JCT contract, the Joint Contracts Tribunal contract. And it's full of legal speak and stuff, and it's a great contract, there's no question about that. So we've looked at it, and we've looked at it as builders from homeowners. Builders are homeowners as well, so we've kind of walked a mile in your moccasins, etc. And we've come up with something that's taken some research to do, to say to you, okay, let's have a look at what we actually want when we've got a builder in. Or in another way of putting it, we've called it our desired outcome contract. What is my desired outcome from this guy doing work for me? Okay, on every level, what is my desired outcome? The first couple of paragraphs from the DIY Doctor Desired Outcome Contract, again, that's available free. I'll give you that information in a moment. The object of this form of contract is to provide fair conditions for both the householder, clients, and the workforce contractor, and to minimize any additional cost due to work being required which is not implicitly detailed in the contract or drawing. The contract is intended to outline fair and reasonable terms for both parties. The client can expect works which function entirely to their intended purpose, and the contractor can expect the agreed fees to be paid at the agreed times. Items which are omitted from drawings, but which should be reasonably expected to form part of the completed works, will be deemed to be included in the contractor's quote. The contractor should draw on previous contract experience to look at the likelihood of possible unforeseen works and inform the client of any such possibility. Okay? Now, what that says is that when you get a drawing for your extension or alteration or whatever, it will show you upstairs that your floor joists need to be inserted at 400 millimeter centers. It doesn't actually say on a lot of drawings that you need to have floorboards on them. So we have actually had, I'll go through that. We've actually had a lady that was asked to pay extra for her floorboards because the builder said they weren't on the drawing. Now, these are implied works, and there are quite a lot of them throughout the course of a contract. This contract ensures, and it tries very, very hard and succeeds very, very well in keeping down what are called extras, okay? Because if you have got the good builder, and we'll go back to your interview with this builder, and we'll go back to the part in the interview where you say to him, have you done this type of work before, can I go and see it? So you go and see it, and you look at him across your kitchen table with contract in hand, and you say to him, so you're quite good at this sort of stuff then? And I've never known a builder say, no, not really. So he will tell you that he's really, really good at it, one of the best in the field. Okay, that's great. Okay? So you say to him then, so you know exactly what to expect from this kind of work. And he will say, well, of course I do. And you say to him, then there can't be anything you can't foresee, can there? Because you've done it so many times before and you're so good at it. And he will go, well, no. Okay? And that's covered in the contract. Implied works. When I take a wall down in somebody's house, because that's what they've asked me to do, I know that it's going to leave a mark in the ceiling where the wall touched the ceiling, and it's probably going to leave a hole in the floor where it was built into the floor. So I know that when I price for that job, I have to include for fixing the hole in the ceiling and the hole in the floor. Wrong. Floor, no, floor, ceiling. I know I have to do that. So I don't charge you any extra because it's a surprise. Oh, look what happened here. Okay? And your builder knows that. Of course he knows that. Make sure that you know that he knows that. And then make sure that you know that he knows that you know how to get over it. Okay? And it's all in this contract and it's free. Okay? So do not, don't be misled by extras. They're very largely not necessary. Sometimes they are. Fortunately, it was me doing the work on my daughter's house when we took her floor up and found that the rats had chewed through the electric cables to the point that there were quite a lot of dead ones in the bottom. Now, I couldn't have foreseen that. Admit it, I did charge my daughter quite a lot in extras, but you can't foresee that, all right? So it does happen. But builders, good builders, and by now you've got enough tools in place to get a good builder. They will know what's going to happen when they take the roof off. They know what happens when they take a wall down or whatever. So it's covered in the contract. If it is a smaller job, if it isn't a huge, extension or whatever, and it's just a minor work, 300-400 quid, whatever it is, then you can use a desired outcome letter. You can simply write to the builder and say, this is my desired outcome for this job. You're fitting a bathroom for me. My desired outcome is that when I turn my hot tap on, hot water comes out. It comes out straight into the basin and doesn't spray all over the room, and then it disappears down the plug hole like it's meant to. It goes through a myriad of small pipes that you've put in that shouldn't leak on the way, and it goes out to the proper manhole. That's my desired outcome. That's not rocket science. I don't have to have all sorts of legal speak to organise that. That's what I want to happen when I turn the taps on. Okay? I'd prefer it that the steam didn't stay in my bathroom, because these days you have to have an extractor fan. And I'd prefer it that I didn't freeze to death when I had a shower because there's a draft coming through the windows. I'd like a lock on my bathroom door, if that's okay, and I'd like the floor to keep me from going into the lounge unwittingly. Okay? That's my desired outcome. I think that's quite fair. And so will the builder. If you've got a good builder, they'll have a little laugh at that and they'll say, yeah, that's cool. There's nothing the matter with that. And it's all in this contract, okay? This contract serves two purposes. It keeps you safe. It keeps the three purposes. It keeps you safe, the builder safe, and it's an icebreaker. It should be discussed over the table, every page, every item, and you can talk to them about it and say, what do you think of that? Do you think that's fair? And builders wrote this contract, 18 of us wrote this contract over a period of 5 years. It's only about 12 pages, but we kept changing it because we didn't get it right first time. Okay? So you're pretty much covered. That is the contract. If you go to some of my DIY nurses around the corner afterwards, you'll be able to get one of these leaflets. There's an email address there. Simply email us and say, you saw us at the show. We will send you a free copy of the desired outcome contract. It's got a lot of what I've spoken about this morning in the back, the notes that accompany the contract. You don't get this lovely little blue binder. I don't know why, but they won't let me give them away like that. But you get the contract, okay? Now, there's another couple of things you can do. I've talked about the implied works and the floorboards problem that the lady had. Photographs. Is there anybody in here who hasn't got a mobile phone? No. All mobile phones, I think, have got cameras. I don't know, I'm not a specialist, but most mobile phones have got cameras on. Take a photograph of what the guy is going to do before he does it, the area, and tell the builder, that you intend to photograph the job all the way through, because you're building up a portfolio of his work to show the new owner, because nobody owns a house forever. Okay? So you're going to give the new owner, a portfolio of the work, a detailed diary of the work as it was done to your home. So that, of course, does what it says on the tin. It gives you a record of what you did, and it says to the builder, Christ, I'm not going to get away with anything here, am I? Okay? Good builders, a lot of good builders that we know carry cameras with them in case when you're at work and an extra does pop up, they will photograph it for you and say, look, this has happened, this is what you need to do, etc. So, a lot of them carry them. But there's nothing to stop you doing that, taking photographs all the way through the work, keeping on top of the situation, taking responsibility for what goes on. It's really quite intimidating when a builder's in your home. It really is, But it doesn't need to be if you've sat down and you've discussed this and built a relationship. We all get on so much better with things that are going on around us if we've built a relationship with the things that are happening. A little chat to the girl at the checkout is much more fun than, So build a relationship and work on that. Completion dates move. It rains a lot in this country. You can't lay bricks until the temperature is 3 degrees and rising. It's no good being 3 degrees, it's got to be rising. Otherwise the frost attacks the bricks and you're going to struggle. So keep a thermometer on site and make sure that they're not laying bricks until it's 3 degrees and rising. Otherwise you will suffer from the frost. Okay? That's in there as well. So be aware, be a little bit flexible about completion times and say to your builder, give me a rough idea on when you're going to finish. And he might say 7 o'clock in the morning on March the 12th. And you're going to look at him and say, come on, man, be real. It's not going to happen, is it? It's going to rain or whatever. I would much prefer you to give me a date that allows you a little bit of flexibility so that I'm not disappointed when you run over. So give him that flexibility. Give him the opportunity to tell you the truth. And then if he doesn't complete, you have every right under the contract then to start complaining. Okay? Be a little bit flexible with that because things do go wrong. A lorry might break down. You might, his materials might not arrive. So be a bit flexible with this, and say to him, I would much rather that you over-promised and under-delivered and over-promised, or whatever it is, Add some time to it. Just-in-time material. Just-in-time is something that the Japanese brought in, I don't know how many years ago, with the Toyota Mitsubishi factory system, where they organised materials and car parts to be delivered just in time for their inclusion into the bodywork, etc. And why you'd like that to happen with your builder, say to your builder, can we organise a just-in-time schedule so that I don't want my garden full of roof trusses which aren't going to go up there for 12 weeks. They're going to be in my way, the kids are going to use them as a climbing frame and they're just a nuisance. So can I have the roof trusses delivered just before they go on? Okay? 2 or 3 days before. I don't really want all this stuff lying about in my home. The only exception to that is floorboards, because when you have floorboards laid in your house, it's a really good idea to stick them in the environment they're going to be laid in quite a while before they're laid, because that allows them to acclimatise and soak up any moisture that's in the air so that you get less expansion and contraction. Okay? But for most materials, bricks, etc., just-in-time policy is a really good thing to have. It takes your builder a little bit longer because he doesn't just give you, the builder's merchant, a list of stuff and say, deliver that. He has to sit down and say, deliver this on such and such a date. But it keeps your garden clear, okay? And it makes sure that the materials you've got, especially cement, etc., are fresh off the batch, okay? So ask them for just-in-time delivery. The payments in agreed stages we've covered. Use an independent payment plan for that, and everybody's going to be happy with that. One of the things to look out for, and again it's covered in the contract, it says you will keep a suitable amount of labour on my job at all times. A lot of builders have a habit of taking on much too much work. They put 5 guys on your job on day one and they create all sorts of havoc, and you think, oh, this is fantastic, this is really busy. And then the next day one guy turns up with a thermos flask, or nobody at all. That's because they've promised Mrs. Brown that they're going to be there on the Tuesday. So they're all gone to Mrs. Brown's and Mrs. Jones on the Wednesday, and they get back to you on Thursday. So you've got a job that's happening every 3rd day, really. Okay? You don't really want that. So in the contract, it stipulates that you must keep the required amount of tradesmen, etc., on site at all times to get your job done within the time frame that they have set. That's covered too. So that's something to look out for. General tidiness is absolutely vital to me. and I hope it is to you. You know, don't say to the builder, as I know we're very nice in this country, we're so lovely. We say, help yourself to tea and coffee. Don't do that. Don't do that. You're really asking for trouble. You've got 14 guys traipsing about your kitchen, leaving a mess and all sorts of things. Don't do that. It's in the contract. Can you make your own arrangements? You know, obviously, a cup of tea every now and again when you get home from work, it's a lovely thing to do, and it's really nice for the relationship you're trying to build. But just say to the builder, talk through with him, it's in the contract, can you make your own arrangements for tea and coffee while I'm not here? You know, I'm quite happy for you to use this room as your tea hut, or I'd prefer you to use your van or whatever. They won't mind. You know, we're used to all of this stuff. I really don't expect to go traipsing around other people's houses, eating their fig rolls and butterfly cakes and drinking their coffee. I really don't expect to do that, honestly. It's lovely when I'm offered. That's smashing, but I don't expect it. So talk to your builder and say, I really would rather that you did this outside of the home. The other thing, of course, is the toilet. All right? There's nothing the matter. It doesn't cost a lot, and it's happening more and more all over London now. You will see a toilet out in the garden. There's nothing the matter with that. Ask the builder to hire a toilet and put it outside, because you really do not want them in there. Not for 12 weeks or so. Okay? They don't mind that either. They fully expect that. Okay? But all of this, everything we have talked about today, everything can be ironed out weeks before they even start working on your home. When they get to the job, there is absolutely no cloudy issue. Everything's organised, it's in the contract. Everybody has an understanding of how they would both like this work to proceed. It's only when you get halfway through and start changing your mind about toilet facilities or biscuits or the colour of the wall or whatever, it's only at that point that it all breaks down and people start falling out. That's when it all goes wrong. If all of this is cast in stone before the guy sets foot through the front door, you've cracked it. You've got a good job. And that's what the builder's looking for too. It's broken. Ask for a quote, not an estimate. Estimates are exactly what they say they are. Well, I guess it's going to be about £8,000. Okay, have another guess then, please. Ask for a quote. The good builder that we've already got, because we've gone through the process, we've got a good builder, he's done it before, he knows how much it's going to cost. Ask him to quote for it, not estimate for it. You want a quote. Estimates move, estimates change, quotes don't. Even better, if you can get one, get a fixed quotation from your builder and say to him, I know there are going to be things that are unforeseen, there always are. But in your experience, because you've told me you're really good at this, using all of your experience over the 20 years you've been doing this, I'd like you to look at the possibilities of things going wrong on this job, and I'd like you to quote for them. And at the end of that, you will give me a quote that isn't going anywhere. It's fixed, absolutely fixed. So you don't do what 80% of this country who have building work do. They go to bed at night wondering what their final bill's going to be, and they can't sleep and they have nervous breakdowns. You know how much you're going to pay. And a good builder will accommodate you to the point where he says to you, yes, I can give you a fixed quote for absolutely everything except possibly taking off your roof and when I'm in the ground. In the ground is what the term we use for digging the foundations, etc. Because you have no idea what's going to happen in there, trust me. Only God knows what goes on under there, and sometimes I don't think even he's got a clue. We found a Morris Minor in the ground once when we were digging a foundation trench, because the house had been built on stilts and it was all backfilled, and it was backfilled like a canal. There were supermarket trolleys and all sorts in there. And it cost the poor guy £5,000 to get this Morris Minor out of his trench, through 3 gardens and out into the main road. It was horrendous. So things happen in the ground that can't be foreseen under any circumstances. There are drains that shouldn't be there. There aren't drains that should. There's all sorts of things can happen in the ground. So be aware of that. But you can also combat that by going to talk to your neighbours. Talk to your neighbours and say, look, have you had any work done that involved digging your gardens up or whatever? Was it okay? You can talk to the local council and ask them if there have been any backfilling, any subsidence issues in your part of the world, and they will give you that information. So you can do a little bit of research, and you get some idea, perhaps, of what's going to go on in the ground. But you're unlikely to get a fixed quote from a builder for anything that happens in the ground. On the architect's drawing, it will say 9 times out of 10, foundations are to be dug to 1 metre deep or to local authority approval. And what that means is that a standard 1 metre deep is pretty much okay for every building you're likely to build domestically. However, if the ground isn't suitable, you have to go deeper, sometimes wider. So even the architects who've probably done 20 drawings for that area don't know what's going to happen in the ground. So it's all implied, and you can do some research, but you can't ask the guy. It's very unlikely you're going to get a fixed quote for what happens in the ground. So yeah, ask your neighbours. Okay, yeah. The other thing is from the builder's point of view, he has got a job to do for Mrs. Jones next week, because we've got a good builder. He's a busy builder. You've had to wait 6 or 8 weeks for him to come and do your job, and so has somebody else. So halfway through the job, you know, these are the words that we're so scared of when we're building in people's houses. While you're here, can you just build me 17 conservatories and a runway? Okay? So be aware that the guy is busy. I mean, obviously ask him and say, look, can we program this into these works? Or is it more feasible for you to come back? Can we speak to your next customer to see if you can shuffle her along a bit to see if she will accommodate that while we do these works? And talk to him again. It's about communication. It's about building a relationship, okay? Because it's quite difficult. You know, when you're self-employed, one of the scariest things in the world is to say no, because you're never quite sure where your next meal's coming from. Business is a very dodgy thing. People pull out at the last minute, and, you know, these things happen. So, you know, say to the guy, can we fit this in while you're here? It's going to be cheaper, quite obviously, because you've got all the tools already, so it's a great idea, and you've established a relationship with him. You know he's a good guy, so you don't mind him doing that extra work, but please be aware that he's probably got other stuff to do as well. So negotiate with him, and he'll be happy to do that. Okay, and on the other side of the coin, don't just give your builder carte blanche to do anything that he thinks needs doing. And this is, so many people do this. The builder will phone you, look and say, well, one of your shelves is loose in the lounge, do you want me to fix it? Or there's a tile loose, or whatever. The first question should be is how much? Every single thing that you have done that isn't already contracted, ask them how much and keep a note of it, keep a list of it. Because they do mount up, you know? And the very last thing you want is to expect to pay $5,000 and the bill comes in at $7,000. You really don't want that. So keep a note of these little things that seem like a great idea at the time. All right? It's often better to say, don't do anything about it just now. Keep track of all these little jobs that you find and quote me for all of them so I know how much they're all going to cost when you've done them all at once at the end of the job. Okay? So don't just, and so many people do, because you've got a good relationship with the guy, you know you can trust him, and you just say, while you're here, and before you know it, you've got a huge bill that you weren't expecting. So keep track of it all. Ask, the first question is, thanks for letting me know, how much is that going to cost to put right? Okay, and then you've got some idea. There's our solution. That's 5 years worth of work by builders into the problems experienced by homeowners. And why are you waving at me? 5 minutes. So we've given, and that's free, okay? So go to the website, go to our stand, pick up one of these leaflets if you haven't got them already, drop us an email saying, saw you at the show. We will send you a contract, completely free. We will talk to you about lead generation, because the page that you will land on, we'll send you a link to go to the lead generation so you know how to get our tradesmen, okay? The program that we're operating, we're going to call ourselves the HIT Squad. HIT standing for honesty, integrity, and transparency. What DIY Doctor's trying to do is to bring transparency into the building industry. Good builders love it, absolutely love it, because they want you to know what they do. They want you to know how good they are at it. There's nothing to hide, absolutely nothing to hide. Okay? Why should I earn any less than anybody going to work on 25, 30K a year? Why should I? Why? I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So they'll be happy to work for you as long as you're happy to pay them the wages. They really will. That's how we operate. And we're happy to give you a good job because you're going to tell the guy next door. And we keep working. And I can get my little girl a bike. But the chances of you, let me tell you a little story. The chances of you just bumping into the right builder, the guy that knows exactly what you want and is going to do it properly for you, are very small. And I'll tell you how small they are, because a friend of mine years ago was an army statistician, a genuine job apparently. And his colonel came up to him one day and said, we have to take a load of troops by aeroplane to Cuba. What are the odds on an armed gunman getting on that plane? Now, I don't know how they work these things out, I really don't. But apparently he came up with a figure, so I don't know, 68,000 to 1 or whatever it was. And he said to his colonel, you can make those odds considerably better. And the colonel said, how can I do that? And he said, you put your own armed gunman on the plane, because the chances of them being 2 on there are millions to 1. All right? And that's about the odds that you're going to get if you just pick a builder out of Yellow Pages and say, can you build my house, please? They're the odds on you getting a good one. So think about that. Take responsibility for our homes and get Cowboy builders out of the UK. We can do that. We really can do that. And it starts here. How exciting is that? Have a smashing day.